Hello, this is my transformational and leadership development presentation. This presentation is based on my professional development and my own personal philosophy. My name is Ellie McNerney and my N number is NO686037. The contents of this presentation include a bit about myself, where I started when I was at the beginning of this year, my action plan, the CPD activity that I undertook, and finally some interview and competency-based questions. First, starting with a bit about me. I am 22 years old and I am also the first and only member of my family to study at postgraduate level. This is something that really motivated me to take on this course. I studied photography at undergraduate level and received a 2-1. I also have skills in sports, music and art. Following my undergrad, I chose to pursue my interest in marketing. Most of my family have jobs in the business and marketing sector, which is what sparked my interest in marketing to begin with. I also did not want to pursue a career in photography after graduating, and I believed that studying digital marketing would tie my creativity into the business world. Now I will talk about where I was at the beginning of this year. Before starting this course, I was very unsure on where I saw myself in the future. I had no idea what area of work I wanted to go into and what I was going to do with my life. I already had an interest in digital marketing, which came from my family and friends who had also studied this area. However, I still had doubts about starting the course as I wasn't sure I was capable of such a challenging course. Many of my friends and family told me the workload would be too much for me. However, I wanted to challenge myself and prove to everyone and myself that I was capable of throwing myself into something and succeeding. I also wanted to challenge myself to live alone and become less reliant on others and more self dependent. At the start of the course, I took part in diagnostic tests to review myself and my strengths and weaknesses. In my opinion, these self assessments are an effective way to measure yourself and also visualise the areas that need improvement. Before starting the course, I never really understood the need to reflect on participating in such tests. However, I now see them as essential and valuable for self improvement. The diagnostic test I took enabled me to address my strengths and weaknesses and also create an action plan to improve my areas of weakness. The diagnostic test highlighted that my strengths lie within teamwork, communication, and problem solving. I feel that my strengths can relate back to my passion and interest in sport. Having been involved in team sports such as hockey and more individual sports like tennis, these characteristics were necessary in order for me to be successful at these sports. Having also been to boarding school for 7 years and having to live with big groups of people in one space, communication and teamwork were also essential in order to avoid conflicts and high intensity situations. And I feel these are something that I can transfer into the business world and my future prospects. The diagnostic tests also highlighted some of my weaknesses, including my lack of awareness of current affairs in general and related to my study area. The test also showed my weakness in confidence and presentation skills, which is something I've always struggled with, being, being confident and being able to stand up and speak in front of a group of people. Looking after myself and living a healthy, balanced life is also something that I struggled with, as I find it hard to balance activities and get into a good routine of all of this. Living by myself this year was something I wanted to do to try and get myself to focus on being in a good routine and in a positive mindset. My mental health has always been an issue and drawback to my success and capability to believe in myself. I have struggled with depression and anxiety, which also again affected my inner confidence. However, this was something I wanted to challenge myself to overcome and deal with this year, as it's been something I've swept under the rug most of my life. Following the acknowledgement of my weakness areas, I created an action plan for myself in order to improve on my weaknesses. Presenting was a weakness of mine, and I rated myself 2 out of 5 in this area. I wanted to practice more and have more confidence in myself when presenting. A CPD activity I undertook in order to improve was the mental resilience class. And the session helped me feel more positive and more relaxed in stressful situations. Um, Another weakness of mine was my awareness of current affairs. I wanted to begin to read news articles and engage in conversations around current affairs. Um, this was something I really wanted to achieve in order to be able to join in intellectual conversations with friends and family and be up to date with what is going on in the world. Promoting my own skills and achievements as well as looking after myself is also something I rated myself low for, being a 3 out of 5. I want to try and be confident in myself and my abilities and trust that I'm capable of doing things. The CPD activity I took for this was to feel your passion. Taught me how to eat properly in order to fuel my body for business, relaxation, health to achieve success, which is something that I really wanted to get under my belt. Also, I wanted to improve my ability to work in culturally diverse teams. Um, this course as a whole helped me do this as I was able to work with many different people. Um, I also wanted to improve my organisation of short and long term objectives and not be stressed out when running up to deadlines. The CPD activity I partook for this was the pillars of stress, which really helped me visualise what stress was and how to deal with it. I will now talk about the CPD activities that I undertook during this year. I attended a Steps to Success workshop that covered CVs and cover letters, a careers fair, Pillars of Stress workshop, Lego Serious Play, How to Avoid Getting Rejected workshop, Fuel Passion workshop, helped with the hockey committee, watched many TED Talks, and attended a mental resilience workshop. I have learnt a lot from my CPD activities, however, I feel there were some that I found more useful than others. The Step to Success workshop taught me essential skills for writing CVs and cover letters. This has enabled me to enhance my employability and future prospects, as well as teach me valuable skills in regard to applying for jobs. Another activity I learned a lot from was the Pillars of Stress workshop. In this workshop, I learned how to minimize stress in my life, as well as teaching me how to cope in stressful situations. I feel being able to manage stress is crucial in both business and everyday life. As I said earlier, one of my weaknesses is my capability to look after myself and live a healthy, balanced lifestyle. The Fuel Passion workshop I found inspiring and very useful in order to understand how to exercise regularly and eat properly in order to get the right nutrients and vitamins in order to stimulate myself and my brain and enable more effective work. However, the most impactful activity I took part in was the workshop on mental resilience. I feel this taught me a lot on how to stay positive and strong when sometimes life tries to convince you otherwise. I found the workshop inspiring and motivating, and I even ended up buying John's book on mental resilience as I found the class so interesting. Outside of CPD hours, I have been trying to work on myself as well. Living alone has really pushed me out of my comfort zone. It has forced me to work on my confidence and put myself out there more. It has made me have to force myself to visit friends and do work with no other motivation or input from anyone else, only my own. I've also worked on my ability to communicate with people, having have to have a few difficult conversations with my tutor as well as NTU wellbeing in order to try and deal and work on my mental health issues. As mentioned earlier, I've struggled with this for a long time, and as part of challenging myself to partake in this year, my mental health was something I wanted to get under control. After these conversations with my tutor, I managed to see a doctor and a therapist, and I finally feel I have my anxiety and depression under control and can genuinely see a change in myself and the way I do things from having these first initial tough conversations. During this course, I've gained more of an insight into where I want my future to go and my ambitions, which is something I did not have a clue about before this year. I now know for certain I would love to move to London and get a job in digital marketing and specifically a role to do with social media. I love to travel and I would also love to be able to tie this in with the job I get, and is something I have been looking into when searching for potential roles. This year has really allowed me to improve my employability by helping me develop my CV as well as teaching me about the interview process and techniques. I now feel very confident and comfortable with job applications and the interview process, and I'm excited for what I will achieve in the future. This year has taught me the importance of reflecting on yourself and your strengths and weaknesses. Throughout this module and other modules in the course, I have been trying to constantly reflect on what I've been doing and on reflection, realising how I could have done things better. This, however, is not just in university life, but also my outside life with my relationships with my friends and family. Prior to this year, reflection was not something I was used to and not something I did often. However, I now value it as a core routine in order to make self improvements. I feel that this is important to understand yourself better and understand your areas of strengths and weaknesses. I also think it's important to be able to visualize your weaknesses, as if you can't visualize them, they will not be able to turn into strengths. I will now answer some interview and competency based questions. In my opinion, the Sustainable Development Goals are great as they aim to tackle many things, including poverty, inequality, and climate change. However, I think making big changes in our world, such as this, takes a lot of power and movement and relies on everyone to be on the same side and of the same opinions, which is nearly impossible. In order to be successful, all of us, government, businesses, civil society, and general public need to work together. However, I feel if this were to be achieved, the future would be better for everyone. So, in my opinion, I feel that these goals have the power to be very successful and rewarding and are a great incentive and key in order to enforce any sort of change in our world. I feel that I can make a difference in my chosen future profession as I believe in many of the goals that have been set by the UN. Responsible consumption and production is something I believe in and try to practice in my everyday life. I also believe that good health and well-being is very important for everybody and is something myself I'm beginning to partake in as well as promote. Gender equality is also something I greatly believe in and view of very high importance. Being a woman and about to enter the workplace, I understand this is very difficult. Having read a lot around this area, specifically Mary Porter's book titled Work Like a Woman, it goes into detail about the inequality of genders in the business world and is something I'm an advocate about and how there needs to be a change. So I feel that I could bring these to the workplace and make a difference. Now I will answer some competency questions. I was appointed as Social Secretary and Wellbeing Officer for NTU's Women's Hockey Society. As part of this role, I had to organise events, design and order merchandise, and also check the well-being of all club members. I organised weekly events for the entire club of about 120 girls. I designed and organised the purchases and distribution of 3 sets of merchandise throughout the year. I also organised a time once a month where members of the club could come and speak to me about any issues or problems they were having within the society as well as outside of it. Overall, it was a successful year with more women joining the society, as well as many successful and enjoyable events and lots of money raised for the club through the events and merchandise sales. I think my leadership skills were apparent in this scenario as I was able to take control and organise large groups of people as well as making sure they were all okay. For our most recent module on customer insights, as a team, we have to create and distribute a questionnaire for our research. However, with the current COVID-19 situation, the group work became very hard to do as we were unable to meet face to face and discuss our plans. However, we set up a WhatsApp group in order to communicate and brainstorm ideas and used a Google document all at the same time in order to write and edit our questions together. Although this was challenging, it was successful and we created an effective questionnaire that gained 104 responses that we were able to use for our report and research. However, in hindsight, even though this was successful, I feel that if we had used video chats and conferencing to communicate with each other instead of messages, we may have produced a better and more high quality questionnaire. In my opinion, communication, organisation, and commitment are the top three characteristics of successful managers. I feel communication is key in order for managers to be able to control and speak to their team successfully and effectively, as being able to communicate with different people in different ways makes managers successful. Organisation is another key characteristic for managers, as the only way to be successful at controlling a team of people is to be organised and on top of what is going on. I also think the only way a manager receives respect from their teams is through their commitment to their role and team. I think if a manager possesses these three characteristics, they have a high chance of being successful. I pride myself in being a good communicator, having practiced with my peers during group work and in sports teams. I would also consider myself a committed person that when I set myself a task to do something, I'm a perfectionist and will be committed until it has been completed. However, I do feel I lack in my organisational skills, um, but I do recognise this as something that I need to improve and work on. In summary, I generally feel I have improved on myself throughout this year. I am more motivated as a person and more interested in what I'm doing. I really feel I can visualize what I want to do in the future and have an idea around my ambitions, which is something I didn't have before this year. I've also learned key techniques such as self reflection and how to deal with stress and mental resilience, and also feel that I've become a more positive person due to this course and this module in particular. Thank you for listening.